Lesson 55. Today's review includes the following. And what I will say, and I should have said this, I thought about it as it was slowly moving through 51, 52, 53, and 54, is that these lessons are going to be a little bit longer than our normal lessons, where we did 1 through 55, where I tried to keep it probably between, I think, 5 to 7, 7 to under 10 minutes. These have been running a little bit longer because we're encapsulating 5 lessons and I try to give some kind of example. I try to talk about something, a personal example that might be helpful for you to see yourself or the lesson through personally. So it goes a little bit longer. And also what will probably happen is that at some point we'll be incorporating these into my television show, The Kyle Phoenix Show, which comes on Thursdays at 11:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, but can be seen through mnn.org, Manhattan Neighborhood Network live stream. So I'll be combining these into shows, and then probably combining or broadcasting the shows, and maybe even the shows talking about the lessons. It'll just be a course full of coarseness. Okay, so we're doing 21 through 25 in lesson 55, the review. And so 21 is I am determined to see things differently. 22 is what I see is a form of vengeance. 23, I can escape from this world by giving up attack thoughts. 24, I do not perceive my own best interests. And 25, I do not know what anything is for. So I had talked in the previous lessons about my experiences with death and a friend's mother dying, and that teaching me about preparing myself in perception and in gathering of skills for a decade later when my mother would be terminal. So lesson 1 is I'm determined to see things differently, which is interesting because it says, what I see now are but signs of disease, disaster, and death. This cannot be what God created for his beloved Son. The very fact that I see such things is proof that I do not understand God. Therefore, I also do not understand his Son. What I see tells me that I do not know who I am. I'm determined to see the witnesses to the truth in me rather than those which show me an illusion of myself. What I'm always interested, or the language is a strong language in number 22, lesson number 22. What I see is a form of vengeance. The world I see is hardly the representation of loving thoughts. It is a picture of attack on everything by everything. It is anything, a reflection of the love of God and the love of his Son. It is my own attack thoughts that give rise to this picture. My loving thoughts will save me from this perception of the world and give me the peace God intended me to have. So, how do I see things differently? Because I'm determined to see things differently. And just from the lesson and just from studying the course for over 20 years, I'm always determined to see things differently. And sometimes that is my prayer. My mother used to talk about the prayer of Jabez. My prayer, my wife prayer is, let me see this differently. Let me see the third alternative to this. So, can't think of something that kind of resonates in the story. So my friend whose mother died, she had to take care of her nephew, and her mother had been taking care of her nephew, had custody of her nephew and taking care of this. So her mother dying moved this boy into her care because his parents were not in a stable enough physical or mental space to take care of him because of their addictions and mental illness issues. So my friend, that was another big thing. It was like, this death is happening, but now I'm a parent suddenly to, this 7-8-year-old child. So that was another reason why I purposefully overstayed my welcome, to kind of balance the sharpness of all of these rocks bouncing in my friend's life as I'm sleeping on her couch. So at the same time, I'm thinking to myself, the work I was doing, I was a youth coordinator for LGBT young people between 14 and about 27. And unfortunately, the organization I was working for had some deep corruption issues. And so I knew I had to move on. And I was torn because I had the disease for pleasing. So I was torn to my students and my charges, where they were at in their lives, and leaving them to literally the wolves in this organization. So I slowly devised a way to kind of move them on, to get them into school, to get them into college, to get them into jobs, to make them understand that this organizational space, while it was a safe space, wasn't supposed to be the space of their lives. So I literally spent maybe four years in the organization. I spent 2 years building up the youth program, and then a year and a half kind of breaking it down to get them, to move them on, to get the birds out of the nest, out of what I knew was a corrupt nest. So I was like, okay, I'm doing this. And then what about me? Where does this fall in my career? So I actually got a life coach. I was trying to take my students to this life coaching seminar that this life coach was holding. And none of them showed up. I was the only one who showed up. None of them showed up. But I was so impressed by the life coach that I actually signed up to do private sessions with him, and we sat down and we talked about this stuff. And so he said, we're going to do 6 months of this work, and I guarantee you, because I laid out, my issues, my apartment hunting issues, my job issues, my wanting to change my job issues, all of this is going to change. We're going to do the work in 6 months' time. And what I will offer, what I will throw into here is that I had tried, 2 years previous to that, I had tried having a therapist, just a normal therapist, normal psychological therapist, thinking that as I was doing my small business stuff, that I needed emotional help. The world wasn't, I was making a profit, but not enough of a profit. And maybe that had to do with how I was grown up and raised, and thoughts about money, big money that family had and not had, and all different kinds of things. And then it turned out that the second life coach, who wasn't a therapist, was more of a business coach and a career coach, so that we changed together how I saw myself in the world, how I saw my work, how I saw what was necessary, how I saw what was unnecessary, and how I saw the agency that I even worked for, that the love in many ways was my presence there. And I was saying love is not being supported here. It wasn't. And that I had very rarely walked away from dysfunction. I'd always tried to fix it, and I tried to please it, and I tried to help it, and I tried to, and slowly it was like, you don't have to do this. You don't have to do this. And then once I got that was almost a way of an attack thought. Oh, I should fix you. I should change you. There's a way that you should be, as an organization, as people, as directors, and all this kind of stuff. And they were some screwed up people. But my attack thought was that they should be the thought that I thought they should be. So we're working on this, and so I'm going back and forth, and I'm apartment hunting, trying to pull this together. And at the same time, I'm trying to support my friend in her grief and in her drama and her adoption. And I was standing in the doorway, and she was it was a big, long, loft-like apartment, and she was kneeling down with a little boy and getting him ready for school and everything like that, and talking to him. And I was there, and in the frame of the doorway, I realized I was looking at a representation or a projection from my thoughts, my past thoughts, of myself and my mother. And I thought, I'm trying to fix the past here. Because I really got into, okay, what are you trying to do here? What are you trying to do here? What are you trying to do here? How these thoughts are. And I said, I'm trying to fix the past. And I'm seeing half mistakes in this, in my friend, and in her charge, her nephew. And Oh, this is how the disease of pleasing is manifesting here. I am trying to appease my past here by standing in place, by standing in quicksand, by standing in a family formation that is holding me back, that is not mine or not my responsibility. It's like, oh, got it. So, I can escape from this world by giving up attack thoughts. And to some degree, the attack thought was that I can fix you. Herein lies salvation and nowhere else. Without attack thoughts, I could not see a world of attack. As forgiveness allows love to return to my awareness, I will see a world of peace and safety and joy. And it is this I choose to see in place of what I look on now. So what I decided, and this is lesson 23, in applying this was they'll be okay. Because there's a God. God's got them. But more importantly, I need to be okay. I need to trust that God has me without me attaching to the past or perception or sliding back into these things. I need to trust in my career space that God's got me. This is going to be all right. And sure enough, that was May. And I found a new place by June, moved, and then I got the next new job. I cleaned out everything in my office October, and I just started applying, and I got the new job in February. So I think I finished the coaching in June, July-ish. So it took a few months because I had to kind of wrap up the program. But I do not perceive my own best interests. So I didn't understand that I was there not only to grow the youth, to mentor the youth, to help the youth, or the young adults, but also to mentor myself to the next stage, to find a life coach to help me, which was really radical for me to do. And I think it was like $150 each session, and it was like 12 sessions. So it was radical for me to even do that financially. And then I do not know what anything is for, that I didn't know what setting up that life, trying to get a half a dozen students to come to the coaching seminar where there were 50 people, that it wasn't for them, it was for me. I didn't know it was for me. It was actually for me. To me, the purpose of everything is to prove that my illusions about myself are real. That in that situation, that that I was the fixer, I was the helper, I was the hero, and I kept putting myself aside to all of these other elements. And then I will tell you that a couple of things popped out that people turned to me and kind of said, "We weren't thinking about you." I was like, "Oh, I was thinking about you and you weren't thinking about me. Whoa." And so I was able to move on from there. So review the lessons for yourself, and hopefully you can find some aspects of your life that it applies to the things that you have been through, to the lessons you have learned. I'm hoping, I've been doing it since I was 12 years old, 20 plus years, journaling, that you're journaling about yourself, even if it's once a day, once a week, once a month. The important things that are happening, that you're writing down what you're feeling and thinking through those things. As you work with the Course, because the Course talks about being a psycho-spiritual form of therapy. And it really, because it gets you to peel apart all of your BS about what you thought your life should be, could be, has been, should have been, what they should have done, what they should have not done, and looking at what forgiveness is, what salvation is. Forgiveness is releasing of the belief that anything could have been different, that it was supposed to be that way. Even now, and I do, like I said, I do workshops and stuff with lots of people about lots of things. Even now, when I look back upon dysfunction in my life, in my childhood, when I look back at the abuse, whether it was physical or emotional or sexual, I forgive those people and those participants. That doesn't mean we go and have lunch. It doesn't mean that we're copacetic. It doesn't mean that they're in my will. But it does mean I release them. They got to go. They got to get out. They go bye 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 bye. Because they do not serve. They do not serve. But the person may not serve, but the experience serves. So whatever they did perceivingly to me, which I don't even accept that same perception that it was done to Kyle, exactly, and I'll explain that in another lesson, that it occurred, and what is the lesson from this? That I am a far more compassionate person because of all the kinds of abuse I've been through. I am empathetic in ways about death and dying because of all the people who have died in my life, who have gone through death. And I am unafraid of death because of that. And I could not have had that not without the person. There are a couple of people where you say, well, did I really need that person? But what I really need with that person, and maybe as a spiritual agreement, was the experience. So that each person who has brought an experience, I can separate the person from the experience. And I can say, something, that person may be, I have a couple of harmful people in my family, people who choose to enact some of their stuff harmfully towards others. So they must be avoided, they must be segregated, they must not have access. But the experiences I have had with them have taught me the scent of people who are like that, the actions, and most importantly, that it was something that was done at me because I was standing there, because I was helpless, because I was a child, because I was in their care. It was not done to Kyle. It was done at Kyle. And there is a fundamental difference. The abuser would have chosen anyone who was there for the abuse. The sexual abuser would have chosen anybody who was there for the sexual abuse. The child of the dysfunctional parent, if there had been more children in the household with me and my parents, they would have got some of it too. It wasn't personal. It wasn't personal. Because personal is God. So it wasn't God. It was their misperception of how to express themselves. As always, Kyle Phoenix Show, Course in Miracles, Kyle Phoenix Show at gmail.com. As always, I talk about the live television show through live stream through mnm.org, 11:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can find us on Facebook. You can also, Kyle Phoenix, type in my name and I will pop up in your Google search. As always, thank you so much and have a good evening.